Hi everybody, wherever you may be, from coast to coast and sea to shining sea. Welcome back to Ham Radio Live, where the world comes to talk radio.
When I was young, I used to dream I had the perfect radio shack. Big antennas on 100-foot tower, a brand new radio and maximum power. I never thought I'd ever get to realise that. Now Jan and me have got the lot, but I'm never on the air at all. Every time I want to chat for an hour, something sends me to the top of the tower. From today I'm gonna put a stop to all that. 'Cause I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. I told you once, I told you twice, 100 times before. The exercise may do me good, the view may overawe, but I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. That was the 7th time I climbed. Today my fingers are all raw.
The group is called Ham Band. If you remember the song Join Us on the Airwaves, same band. This one's I'm Not Gonna Climb the Tower Anymore, requested by Brandon, so I hope you enjoyed the show open.
I'll just relax and chat to good old friends on the air again. How are you, Mike? OE6MBG.
Hello, Andrew.
7Q7JL from Lake Malawi.
Nice to
Now,
know.
that's the kind of hamming I can recommend. A comfortable chair, a glass of beer, and a friendly ionosphere. OD5MM, how's Irma today? VU2DK in sunny Bombay.
Thank you very much.
Really great to talk to you again, me old friends. But I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. I told you once, I told you twice, 100 times before. The exercise may do me good, the view may overawe.
Yeah.
But I'm not climbing up the tower anymore. That was the 7th time I climbed today. My
Hi everybody, it is Saturday, the 10th day of September, 2022. And from wherever you are around the world, away we go. Hi everybody, welcome back to Shack in Oregon. My name's Larry. My call sign, Amateur Radio's Kilo 7 Hotel November. Welcome back to Ham Radio Live. First of all, I want to apologize for my voice. There's some terrible smoke issues here in the Northwest. We've got some massive wildfires here, and being outside too long has just kind of got my voice gone. That's the morning view out the kitchen window with the Buddy Hex pointed to the northeast to work Europe last night, and that's how bad it is here. So please understand, I have a really froggy voice today. We'd like to help you get your amateur radio license, really would. This is a great way for you to get started in amateur radio. You've got to start somewhere, right? And the best way to start is by connecting with a local amateur radio club. It really is. The best way to find one is to contact someone like the American Radio Relay League at www.arrl.org. Just hit the contact us bar there on their page. They'll send you an email back if you tell them you want your license or where you're from. And that email will have a local to you, as local as possible, amateur radio club. Then you contact the club. They'll tell you all about amateur radio, help you get that license passed, and help you get on the air. www.arrl.org. If you're here from the WRMI CQ calling show powered by Icom, I'd like to say a big welcome to you from around the world. Thank you for coming. A little longer show today. We're on WRMI Shortwave Thursdays and Fridays. Show is powered by Icom. Show is called CQ Calling. We'd be honored for you to pay attention, maybe get a EQSL card for working the show. Pretty cool. Also, an email here at cqhamradiolive@gmail.com and a fun little Discord page called ham-radio-live. There'll be a description link below for you. I have a couple of people today, and I'm really excited to bring them on because a lot of people, I think they get comfortable, and this isn't meant as a criticism towards anybody, but you get comfortable where you're at, right? And you can get so much more. I'm a big believer in licensing up, a huge believer in that. And when we get someone that licenses up, we do something just like this. We play this music, and today we're doing it for someone very special. Ron Walensky in Monroe, Washington, November 8, Whiskey Charlie Romeo, just passed last night his amateur extra license. Well done. Well done, my friend. Congratulations. That is so cool, man. That is a big deal. Really is. All the frequencies, all the permissions, everything now is yours, Ron. Well done. All right. Speaking of licensing, right? Either getting started or licensing up. And you can, in the States, even go from no license all the way to the very top level license. I did that, and I did it with this company, Ham Test Onlne, live from the Phoenix area. Here is John and Brandon. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for having us on.
It's an honor to have you guys. Thank you for coming. John's call sign, how they did this, I have no idea. But look at this. John's call sign, Whiskey 1 Alpha India. Brandon's Whiskey 1 Sierra India. How's that happen? Seriously.
Well, it's pretty simple. Vanity call sign. In 2002, a friend of mine said, hey, W1AI is coming up, and artificial intelligence is kind of the thing I do behind these programs. That's why the software works so well. And he said, why don't you grab that one? So I put in for it, and I got it. And then Brandon, he came in like 20 years later, or 15 years later, and he said he wanted to get a 1x2. And so this one.
So I got software intelligence.
Software intelligence.
His footsteps.
So we just put in for him and we got him. We were lucky.
Oh, that's
I think
great.
I waited about 6 or 8 months for mine.
Oh, is that right? Wow, it's amazing how similar your calls are. It really is. I mean, it's just they're just one letter off. It's fantastic. It really is. Who gets that lucky in the world? I'll tell you. I want to welcome a lot of people here. First off today, Kevin O'Doublehan, all the way from Ireland. First in, we give him a big old beep beep for that. Nice job, Kev. You did it again. First in. Second, from Akron, Ohio, William, Alpha Delta 8, India Tango, welcome. Avery, a brand new amateur extra, just passed her license last month. Kilo 4, Victor Romeo Yankee, and she is only 17 years old. Avery, very proud of you. Seriously, it's great. Winan is here, and he gives the number 65.
The jig is up.
Yep. Okay, Winan, thank you. He's here from Namibia in Africa. Winan, thank you. Skeeter from Tucson, Kilo 7, Tango Romeo Delta, welcome. Jason, November 5, Victor Hotel Tango. Nice to have you, as well as Daniel, New Hampshire. Kim, Kilo 6, Yankee Lima. You're supposed to be doing a park on the air, my dear, and I'm hopeful you are. I'd like to work a call with you today. I mean that. Sam Weaver's here from Alabama. Welcome, my brother Bob as well with WIFI. Eamon Azar, my dear friend in Indiana, November 9, Sierra Echo Sierra. Thank you all for coming today. And by the way, Charlie as well from Red Summit RF, November Juliet 7 Victor. Charlie, great video. A really great video you did on the MFJ 1979. That was well done out in the field. No kidding. Guys, let me ask you this. When did the whole process start to develop a software program to help people in their leisure time to be able to pass the amateur radio license tests?
All right, well, I'll take that one since I've been around from the beginning. I'm the concept behind it, of the software developer, and I started the business back when Brandon was in, I don't know, junior high or something. But now I'm getting close to retirement age, and Brandon is taking over, and he's in training. So in the early days, it really started with French vocabulary. See, I was ADD. They didn't call it ADD back then, but I was ADD in school. I could not pay attention to save my life, but I did well with flashcards. So I devised this pretty fancy system. I had different stacks of flashcards, and the ones on the way left were the ones that I didn't know very well, and the ones on the way right were the ones that I do really, really well. And so, of course, I would spend more time studying the ones in the left stack and less time on the ones in the right stack.
Yeah.
And later I learned that this is called spaced repetition, and people have been doing it for thousands of years, but I thought it was pretty clever because I thought of it myself. Okay.
There you go.
It occurred to me while I was doing this one day that this would be the perfect application for a computer because they can remember. I mean, my computer right now remembers the study history, the strengths and weaknesses of something like 150,000 different people. And computers are great at that. I wrote this specialized software that would do exactly what I did with my flashcards. The weaker it is, the more often you drill it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how it came about. I first wrote the program in 1998. And the reason I did it was nobody had done it. From the time I thought of it in 1970, nobody had done a good computer-aided instruction program. Most of them were just more like you read this long, boring text and then ask you a few review questions. So it's not taking any advantage of the power of the computer to remember and drill and pay attention and remember your strengths and weaknesses. None of them were doing that. And others were nothing more than just random exams where they'd ask you the questions randomly without keeping track of what you were doing good at, what you were doing bad at. So since somebody else did it, I did it in 1998. Brandon used it to learn the state capitals and the chemical elements and things like that in junior high and in high school.
That's really cool.
And then in 2002, I decided I was going to go back and get my amateur license back. I'd had it in the 70s, but I let it go in the 80s. I was busy with family and stuff like that, career. And then in 2002, I said I was going to get it back. So I loaded the question pools, all three of them, into this program, and I used it to drill me with intelligent repetition, focusing on my weak areas. And then I went in, after about a month of study, I went in and I passed all three exams in a single session. And a friend of mine said, that worked really, and by the way, I got perfect scores in the first two, I missed one on the extra. So
that's good. Yay. Well done.
Of course, I'd had the advantage at that point. I'd seen the materials years earlier, and I'm a kind of a technical guy anyway, so it wasn't super hard for me. But a friend of mine said, that worked really well. Why don't you put it out on the web and sell subscriptions and let everybody take advantage of this wonderful way to learn?
Was that with K1RV?
No, it wasn't. I hadn't met him yet, but he was one of the early people that helped out with the. So shout out to Pi K1RV if he's listening. He's been a huge help in bringing Ham Test Onlne out and getting it known. But I launched on August the 29th of 2002. So we just passed our 20-year anniversary and still going strong.
Congratulations, John. That's quite a story. So you were the originators of online tutoring to pass amateur radio licensing.
Yes, at the time we launched, there were already a few sites that had random practice exams.
Okay.
Those already existed. So you could already go in and study at random anytime you wanted. But random study is not nearly as effective as spaced repetition or directed study, intelligent repetition.
Yeah, you know what I like about you guys, John, and I don't mean to interrupt, but we got people, and they're from all over the world here. The thing about your software that is so unique, and using it myself, I didn't have a license, went in, and I told the people that the VEC actually, because I, prepared them, for the test. I said, give me 2 months. I really want to study hard. And I want to pass all three. And she said, there's no way. I've been doing this 45 years. I've never seen that done before. If you walk out with the general license, be happy. And I said, nope. I think the good Lord's going to bless me and I'm going to get all three of these. And I studied like crazy with your software. And what I found it did was it knew my weak areas and it would continue to come back and help me reinforce those weak areas. That's a fantastic thing that your software does. Tell us about that feature, if you would.
Well, it's modeled after my French vocabulary flashcards. It's a very simple thing. And when it comes in at the beginning and you see a question for the first time, well, first I'll give an overview of the whole program. You come in and it gives you a brief study text, which you read. They usually take a minute or two to read. And then it drills the actual exam questions that relate to that material that you just read. Mm-hmm. And it'll go on and bring some new materials in for a while, but then it goes back and starts drilling the ones that you've already seen.
Sure does.
And the weaker you are on the question, the more often it drills it. But we also do something pretty clever. We have study history for 150,000 students. Mm-hmm. So we can go in and we have statistics. We know which questions people find hard and which people find easy. So we actually start the questions out preceded as to whether you're going to likely be weak or strong at it. So for an easy question, I think the very easiest question in the whole system is what organization, the one that people get most right is what organization regulates and enforces the rules for amateur radio service? And the answer is the FCC.
Yep.
This is something that 99% of people get right. Whether they're coming in on just a practice exam or whether they're going through a study mode, whatever way they're studying, 99% of people get it right.
That's
So
the first time. Actually, the first time and the subsequent time, and 98% if they have not done any studies and they just use random exams. Because we also have random exams. If people don't want to pay $25 to get the good stuff, they can still use our site and just take the random exams. It'll take them a little bit longer. They'll have to study 2 or 3 times as hard because it's not directed study. But they're welcome to do it. Completely welcome. We love our free customers as well as we love our paying ones.
Yeah, that's good.
I just wanted to add, I mean, one thing that's really helpful for us is that not only do we track the scores from the first time a student sees a question, but we also track the average scores of subsequent times that they see it. So if a student tends to forget that material, we can try and find those little tricks to help them remember it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that because I came prepared with questions from Ham Test Onlne. I was ready for this. I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw some stuff. You guys are. This is a great question, and just to give people an idea, this is kind of how very in depth their program is. And you get to this question, and you're gonna laugh, John. What transmitter frequencies would cause an intermodulation product signal in a receiver tuned to 146.7 megahertz when a nearby station transmits on 146.52 megahertz? Now, you can see John smiling there in the corner. You see that, right? Well, here's the deal with it. If you take a look, which is very interesting at this, take a look what the bottom says, okay? The bottom, those are all buttons you can press on Ham Test Onlne, so you can grow or remember things better. And you see the very bottom one? Cheat for the math challenged. And that is me. That is totally me. And so you click on that, and here's what it says. So great. It says, I don't normally encourage memorizing, but I make an exception in this case. Just right. Just remember that the correct answer ends in 61. That is so doggone cool. I'm really impressed. It ends in 61.
Well,
wow.
We try really hard not to do cheats like this, but this question is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And we tell you how to do the math. We show you the formulas. We show you the calculations, but it's so long and it's so extreme that most people are just going to skip it.
Yeah. Let me ask this. How difficult is it to change the syllabus? For example, this year in June, the end of June, the technician license question syllabus completely changed. How hard is it for you guys to update everything in time and get it done right before that update becomes legal?
So let me tell you, this year was my first year as the driver, as the main course master. And I will say it is a very rigorous process. It takes a lot of time and research. Every year we continue to raise our standards, so we try to improve the course a little bit more and make it better. We always shoot for having our courses live about 2 months before the exams actually change over. That way we give our students plenty of time to study. But just to give like a quick summary of our process, basically we start by reviewing all the different questions individually to make sure they're grouped and categorized properly. We compare and score those questions so that when students say don't finish a prior exam and they have to transition to a new exam, they're not completely wasting their time. Mm-hmm. They actually get some credit for some of those questions that are related. But once all the questions are in their proper places, we go through and we read the material. We make sure that every single question is answered thoroughly. Mm-hmm. Something new is added or changed, we have to modify that material, and it takes a lot of time. One way that we, because it's one of the biggest challenges is writing highly technical material in a way that someone with a non-technical background can easily understand.
Yes, and that's where you excel. I think so.
Well, I think one of the ways that we overcome that best is by recruiting people with diverse backgrounds that help us review our material. So that way we get different perspectives. We usually do several review sessions per week over the months leading up to that course launch. And sometimes discussions get a bit tense. I mean, sometimes the techie will think that everybody knows what a word means, and the non-techies will very strongly disagree. But, once we get through all that, we always end up with a course that we're really happy with, and our students always seem to agree on that.
That's really cool. We're live with John, Whiskey 1 Alpha India, and Brandon, Whiskey 1 Sierra India, and they're the owners of Ham Test Onlne, an online course that you can use in your leisure time when you've got some time after work, or maybe on a weekend, or maybe you just need some downtime, and can help you get your amateur radio license here in the States, or license up to a higher class. And speaking of that, we've got some really nice comments here. William from Akron, Ohio, Alpha Delta 8, India Tango. Ham Test Onlne was how I passed my extra. Ham Study Online, how I passed my extra. Thank you. And here's one from Kevin in Iowa. Ham Test Onlne is great. It got me my license for sure. And, here's Rob Sabato. Your program helped me pass the technician. I'm struggling on the general. Hang in there, Rob. Kilo 2, Whiskey Romeo Delta. You keep trying. It'll work out. You'll get it. You'll get it. That's the nice thing about what they do. They help you very, very well. Aaron Lutz in Canada, Victor Echo 5 Lima Golf. I'm using Ham Test Onlne to study for my advanced license. Whoa. You guys do the advanced license in Canada too?
We used to have a specific course for that, but we did. It was too hard to keep the materials up. So basically, there's a great overlap between the materials in the extra and in the Canadian advanced.
Yeah.
If you study extra materials, you'll have like 90% of what you need to pass the Canadian advance. A lot of people use our courses to pass the exams for other countries because materials for all the countries are very, very similar.
Yeah, the theory is always going to be the same.
Exactly. Radio theory does not respect the boundaries of a country. It's universal.
Absolutely. And that's where I think it really makes a difference. So, Aaron in Canada, that's a really good thing. I think the Canadian test is and I've looked at it. I've also looked at the UK test. I've looked at the States test. I think Canada is the most in-depth, like real technical stuff test than the States here or in the UK. But you'll get the main points. Let me ask you this. A lot of people could get concerned about getting their amateur radio license because they aren't good at math, okay? This is something that is a roadblock, a real roadblock for people. How do you overcome that, guys?
Let me tell you Christina's story. So Christina is my late wife. We met in 2011, and she immediately started saying she wouldn't help me with my business. I said, sorry, you can't help me with my business because you'd have to have a ham radio license. It's just a rule we have in the business.
Bless her heart. Bless her heart, John. I'm sorry for your loss. That's a terrible loss. Yeah.
She was wonderful. And I know a lot of people who are our past customers have had interactions with her. I was the brains behind the operation. She was the heart and soul of it. So it was a huge loss for me and for the company as well. Yeah. But she said, okay, fine, I'll just get my license. And I said, so which license are you going to get? And she knew enough at that point to know what the levels were. And she says, well, my extra, of course. So she sat down and she started studying. Now
hold on a second. Wait, no radio background? She never thought about amateur radio at all, really?
Oh, well, she had UCB like 30 or 40 years prior. So she had some experience talking on the radio. But she really knew very, very little about electronics.
Didn't she say she wanted to get into ham radio and someone discouraged her saying, oh, that's a man's hobby, you can't do that, when she was like 9 or something like that?
What they said is it's way too technical. She was a teenager. She was maybe 18. They said it's way too technical. You would have to learn it. It involves a lot of math.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Over to this side of the shop, and I'm going to show you a CB. And that's how she got into CB.
Gotcha.
A bit of a sad story. But anyway, her getting into ham radio was a wonderful story. She sat down, she studied for 6 weeks. The some people will ask, does it work on a tablet? She only used the tablet for the first, say, 98% of her study time, and then she used my iPhone on the way to the exam. She was still studying, drilling on the way to the exam.
Yeah.
She skipped all of the math. She did not answer any math questions. She did not memorize any math answers. Whenever she would see a question requiring math, she'd skip that button at the bottom of the page that says skip all math for now. And then she wouldn't see any more math for 16 hours, or basically the rest of the day. So every day she just skipped the math. She studied for 72 hours over a period of 43 days, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went and passed all 3 in a single session. She did not get perfect scores because she'd skipped the math. And you're not going to get a perfect score if you don't learn all the questions.
Sure.
But
it doesn't matter. We always say, John, on this channel, the guy that, for example, on the X-ray missed 13, the person that misses 13 and the person that gets a perfect score is still an amateur extra. Yep. It doesn't matter.
The ink is the same color in the license.
Yes.
You know what they call the guy who finishes last in medical school?
A doctor.
Doctor.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. Sorry, bud.
So the 2 key takeaways is it absolutely works perfect on tablets and phones. And, and you don't need to learn any math at all. There's just simply not enough math to matter. Just learn the other stuff a little bit better and you will be fine with no math at all. And I have many customers who've done the same thing.
Yeah.
Christine is the one I have personal experience with. I saw what she did.
Wow. What a great story. John, thank you for that. Got a nice question from Charlie at Red Summit RF, November Juliet 7 Victor. Question, how do you analyze and use the data you collect? Are you using AI and or machine learning?
I would say it doesn't really quite qualify as AI. I just wrote algorithms. There are certain things that we do, like we keep track of how many people get a question right the first time they see it in study mode, how many people get it right on all subsequent answers, how many people get it right in random exams, and then you can come up with that with an overall. We keep track of that, and we use that to guide the algorithm to focus more on the things that are harder and less on the things that are easier. But most of it is simply a matter of drilling the questions, getting the person's responses back and deciding, was it right or wrong? If it was right, we increase their score on that. If it's wrong, we decrease their score on that. And, a wrong answer can have a pretty devastating impact on the score of that question. And, but you just keep drilling the weak ones. There's other things that we do, like there's related questions. So if you get a question wrong about the impedance of open and shorted transmission lines.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah.
Yeah, aren't those fun?
Gosh, I hated those questions.
Brings up another thing. If there's one particular topic that is really difficult for you, like logic gates or a few others, decibel
rectangular coordinates.
Yeah. If there's even if it's not math, if there's something in particular that really bothers you, you can skip that too. You can skip quite a bit and still pass. Just you can't skip 75% of it and still pass. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
If you get one wrong about the impedance of a short or of a shorted or open transmission line, it lowers the score on all of them. So you see all of them a little bit sooner, because those are things that if you got one, if you get one wrong, you probably have the others wrong as well.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know. And it's interesting. We got a point. And by the way, Charlie, thanks for your question. Kevin O'Doublehand in Ireland. I love how you do this. Sorry, he says, I love how you do this, guys, especially as a disabled person with short-term memory problems and problems retaining. The information in your system is awesome, Kevin. And that comes all the way from Ireland. Kevin, thank you for that comment. It's very nice. Robert Varner, Kilo Charlie 2, Tango Echo Lima, welcome, as well as my friend Jeff in Portland, Alpha Delta 7, Lima, November. It's nice to have all you guys here. Let me ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges you face when you have to rewrite a license element? This is a different type of question than the one I asked you before, Brandon. The one I asked before is, how hard is it to change things? Now we're talking about rewriting it. How difficult is that?
Well, it takes a lot of research. So I mean, if if you get a new question, it's something that hasn't been seen before. Now you got to go out and you got to research a whole entirely new topic, and you got to figure out how to translate that into easy words. Um, I mean, it's really part of that same process, just holding those team review meetings and then having someone go through and review and take a look and make sure that it's easy to understand. Um, it depends on the material. Like this year with the new technician pool, we actually had a bigger introduction into hotspots, DMR and D-Star.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually had to do quite a bit of research on that to add more data. There was more about computer inputs, actually combining radios and computers together. It hasn't been something that's been really big in the tech course in previous years. So, it just depends on what it is, but it definitely takes a lot of time to change over that material for sure. Do you have anything you want to add?
You got to write that. So much writing is involved, not only in what people see, but also the computer language, because it's an entirely new question, and you're throwing some out. Let me ask you this: what were the stats for the technician, the upgrade technician license in 2022? Did they add? How many questions were added? How many were dropped? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was actually only 10 questions dropped. They didn't actually add any new or additional questions. They did add some new questions. They removed some and then replaced them with other more modern questions.
Yeah.
But in the overall total number of questions, they actually reduced it by 10.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's evolving. The ham test in the States is evolving as every amateur radio test does worldwide. We're not talking as much about terrestrial television anymore.
Hmm.
They're focusing more on, maybe a satellite dish or cable or something like that. It's really something. We had a guy that was here, I believe it was on Wednesday, and he says, I've been licensed 35 years and I don't recognize a test. Of course he wouldn't. He wouldn't have digital modes, television, all the stuff that's been added here to the test. Let me ask you this. Now, I asked you about math, and by the way, John, you nailed that. You did very well. The gold star for you today. Get a little brownie with a candle on it. Let me ask you this. Now, say somebody doesn't have radio knowledge. You get that person that, they let's say, for example, they see it, see an amateur radio being done, for example, Park on the Air. They look at it and they go, man, that looks really fun. How do I do that? They have no background in radio. How does Ham Test Onlne help a person like that?
Well, remember, we focus on getting them licensed. We do not try to teach them all aspects of ham radio. Now, obviously, part of getting licensed is knowing some basic jargon, because there's questions about jargon on there, like what does CQ mean and what does 73 mean and things like that. So, QTH and QSL and all that stuff. So we cover all the things that are on the exam. We don't try to teach everything you need to know to operate a radio. We don't try and teach all the controls and things like that. That's something better done by the local club.
There you go.
We strongly recommend people getting into their local clubs.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, we had Ray Novak on about a year ago from Icom, and Ray said that's the number one thing anyone interested in amateur radio should first do. Get connected with the local club. John, that's cool that you said the same thing. That's great. It really is. That is. How are you guys equipped to help people, though, like that? They go to Ham Test Onlne, basically not a whole lot of radio knowledge. Let me ask you this. Do either of you have any idea in terms of someone wants to get their license, don't know a lot about radio, but they saw it, they liked it. How is Ham Test Onlne built to help them grasp things like radio theory?
We use a building block approach. We start at the very, very beginning, and we build up. We start with voltage and current and power, and then we get into alternating versus direct, and then we get into frequency, and then we talk about frequency ranges and bands, and we build step by step from the very beginning elements all the way through everything you need to know to pass exams. Now, we're laser focused on the exam, so we're not going to tell them everything they need to know to become a ham, and that's why we constantly push the clubs. A lot of people say, well, there's no club in my area. So we say, send us your zip code, and we send them back a list of clubs that we found. Sometimes if you go to ARL and ask, they'll tell you about the ARL affiliated clubs, but there's a lot of clubs out there that are not ARL affiliated. You can find them with a Google search if you know what to look for.
Yeah.
So we
Interesting.
just push them that way.
Well, and I want to get to a question that you guys have that I think you covered it great. You really did. It's a question on the extra, and this is something I tell people a lot. If you're a general, you're so close to getting the extra ticket. You're just so close because so many questions on the extra license come from the technician and general pool. There are questions that will be repeat, so you'll know those answers. But here's a good one. What indicator is required to be used by U.S. licensed operators when operating a station via remote control and the remote transmitter is located in the U.S.? So, practical example, you're operating your amateur radio with, say, a tablet, or if it's a flex radio, you're using a Maestro, and you're outside the States. And you decide you want to play amateur radio. You turn your radio on at home, you start making calls. Do you have to use a special identifier? And the answer is no, you don't have to. And what I like about this is, as you talked about this in the syllabus, it describes exactly the situation of what you guys are best at, which is making something that might seem technical, because let's face it, there's a lot of $50 questions on this test. Like million words long, and it's confusing. Man, you guys can pave the road smooth and make it easy to understand. How important is that to all you guys to do that?
Absolutely critical. We work really hard to explain it in a way that non-technical people will understand it. We work really hard to keep our language as plain spoken as possible.
Yes.
We don't go without defining terms. So if it's a word that we feel anybody doesn't know, we're gonna start by defining that and build upon that.
And a good example of that, Brandon, is when we talk about the IARP agreement. Okay, a lot of people in Europe and here in the States know about the SEPT agreement, and how that works, but not a lot of people, not as many, know about the IARP agreement, where you can use your license in the Central American countries and down in South America because of the IARP. But what I liked what you did on that question, and I don't have the question in the pool here that I'm showing the people, but what I loved was that you put the link to the ARRL application page for various countries if you want to be able to work in those countries. That was such a home run, guys. That was a great idea. So people can find out, I'm going to be going to, let's say, the Canary Islands for a great lifetime vacation. I'm going to bring my radio with me. This is great. How much do you guys have to do to really search out stuff like that? Like the ARRL has the, I say you two, because two doggone R's in the middle. That ARRL has, a lot of resources. You guys must pay attention to a ton of other stuff on the internet to help get people to places that can help them.
Yeah, it's difficult. You definitely have to have a good ability to filter through the stuff that you find out there. You really have to be able to dig. You have to have your Google skills, that's for sure.
Absolutely. What have been some of your best success stories with Ham Test Onlne?
Well, there's been so many. I mean, bottom line is this. We do have that money back guarantee. If you're unhappy with the website for any reason, we'll give you your money back.
How about that? Now, let me ask you this, John, and I don't mean to interrupt, but this is important because say someone in the UK wants to study up for their full license, right? And they use Ham Test Onlne, but it's not for the US test. If they fail it, do they then get their money back too, or is it not because they're in the States? Well, how would that work?
It's not dependent on failure. It's dependent on whether they are unhappy with the website for any reason.
Gotcha. That's cool, man.
I think we say somewhere on our
I like that.
We say something along the lines, if you use this to study for an exam and you pass it, whether it's in this country or any other country, you probably should. It would be inappropriate for you to ask for a refund. But we never refused a refund to anybody ever.
That's great.
We have less than a 1% refund rate. I mean, like occasionally you'll get somebody that will come back and say, ham radio is just not for me, or I don't have the time to study,
That's
or
fair.
I'd rather use a book, something like that. And of course, we always offer a refund whenever they want that. But we've come to discover that about 9 out of 10 people who ask for a refund are just struggling with their studies and they just really want some advice or some positive encouragement. So if we do a little study audit and give them some advice, most often they come back, they pass their exam, they're really happy, and our students are about 50 times more likely to leave us a 5-star review on eham.net than to ask for a refund.
That's nice. Well put, Brandon. Well put. You guys, what do you think is the biggest challenge to people who might want to get their license today?
They just got to sit down and study. I mean, it's fine. It's being willing to put in the concentrated study time. And I can't stress this enough. If somebody goes in and studies for 10 minutes a day, they could study for years and never be ready to pass the exam. But if they go in and they study for an hour a day, they'll be ready to pass the
10 days
in about 10 days.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Here's my formula. I'll tell you, I'm going to share with you how I did it through your Ham Test Onlne. I found out that through a friend, I guess the person I bought a radio from, it was a shortwave radio. I'd collected shortwave for almost 45 years. And I bought the radio, and he says, "Do you have your ham license? Do you have what's your call sign?" And I'm like, I can't do code. He's like, "Oh man, they took code out a long time ago. You don't have to have no code." And I said, "Really?" And I did some research, found out that you can go from no license to the top if you want, or no license to the second level, the general, or even start with technician, whatever you want to do. And I focused, man. I went and I studied that material. And what I would do is I went through the technician in like 3 or 4 days. I remember it's 3 or 4 days, but I was going 10 hours a day. I really was. And I would walk because my back is disabled. It's best for me to walk and move. I would walk around this neighborhood, and people must have thought I was absolutely either stalking their homes or doing something crazy because I had my phone out and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. No joke. And then I got to the point where I got the idea down for the license, right? And I would go to what I think is one of the strong points of your program, which is the practice exams. I would continue to take those until I averaged 90%. That was what my goal was. And all of a sudden, technician, I got it. I was averaging 80% when I was studying for the general. Once I got the general syllabus down, which took probably about 5 or 6 days of hard study, then I started doing the same thing there. And then the extra took the longest. The extra was, for me at least, and this is no lie, it was probably 10 days. And I mean 10 days of good 8 to 10 hour study. But I wanted this so bad. And I would continue then to repeat the tests. And you guys, because your tests are never the same. They're never the same test twice. You get so much questions that may pop up on that license exam. And when I was averaging 90% on all 3, I knew I was ready to go. And I'll tell you, when the VEs did my test, I breezed through the technician. I felt bad. The guy next to me didn't pass, and I felt so bad for the guy. I go through the technician in about 3 minutes. Then I took the general. It took about 5. And then I took the extra, and that was about 10. And they came back. They told me, "Congratulations, you got your technician. You're a new licensee. Do you want to take the general?" Yes, I do. Took the general. They took about 3 or 4 minutes looking over my exam. "Congratulations, you passed the general. Do you want to try?" And that was what they said. "Do you want to try for the amateur extra?" I said, "Yes, I do." I took the test, and literally, it probably took 10, 15 minutes for me to do it because I really wanted to make sure I got as many right as I could. They were passing that piece of paper back and forth 3 times. My tests 3 times. And then they walk over because the VEC was in the room at the same time. They show her the test. And the guy walks up to me. He goes, "Look, I don't know how you did this, but you just got the amateur extra ticket too. How did you do it?" And I said, "I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength." And I said, "I used a site online called Ham Test Onlne. That's the best program I've ever learned something through to get me something valuable in life. You guys helped me tremendously. I can never thank you enough. I mean that.
Congratulations.
That's
Larry.
the honest
awesome.
truth. They were stunned.
Congratulations, Larry, but remember, you're the one who put in all of those hours.
168 hours. That was my number.
That's a lot of hours to put in. That's a lot of hours to put in, and that's why you did so well, and that's how you were able to do it.
Well, and what the other thing that Ham Test Onlne does, it'll tell you how many hours you've been studying. It'll keep track of that. It'll keep track of all your practice tests, and then it remembers still the places that you're dwindling in. It's just fantastic. It really is. How often do you tweak the software to be a little more intelligent, guys?
Well, in the beginning it was quite a bit, but I think over the more recent years we've kind of perfected it to where we want it to be. There's still some things in the works that we want to do, but nothing major that we think is going to significantly change the way that the algorithm works.
Okay.
We distinguish between the software and the courseware. The software has pretty much been fixed for the last 5 years or so. We don't have anything else that needs to be done to it. But the courseware is completely independent. We don't write a line of computer code for a new question. We just change what's in the questions in the database.
Okay.
It's all in there. It's all linked with all the right hints and all the right show calculations, the show formulas, whatever we need for that question. It's all in the database.
Okay.
And that's where we're constantly tweaking now.
Okay, John, just one more question. Brandon, don't feel bad. I'm not picking on you here. Okay, you're in the corner here. You're good. John, we all know digital modes have come in huge in amateur radio. It's by far the most popular mode there is in terms of popularity growth. It's huge. It really is. Parks on the Air, huge as well. But digital modes are different because it's part of that test. When digital modes started becoming more than, radio teletype, for example, and WSJTX came in, that's a total different type of learning you have to teach. How long did it take you guys to make the big changeover when digital modes became part of the test?
What's interesting, they sort of started filtering they first started adding a few smatterings of questions with each new version of the exam. So when it first came out, you didn't have to teach very much. It was all really surface. But over the years, it's gotten more and more and more in depth. And so we've had to learn more and more and more. And we did spend a lot of time on this new technician. There was a lot of new stuff about the digital modes.
Yes.
And because the digital modes, they're quickly evolving. The digital modes that were very popular 5 years ago aren't in use anymore.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Hellschreiber, Olivia. Yeah.
Mtor, Pactor, all kinds of things that used to be popular. They've been supplanted now.
Yeah.
So every time we do a new course, we spend a significant amount of time going and brushing up on our digital modes. Now, I like using DMR, and I've spent a lot of time using it, but that's not at all the same thing as knowing all the answers to all these technical questions about, how does it, the bandwidth on the channels and things like that.
Okay, gotcha. And William, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brandon. What?
Oh, that's stuff we do a ton of research on, to make sure that we get it accurate.
I bet, because that's a big improvement. It's a big upgrade. A nice comment from William, Alpha Delta 8 India Tango, all the way from Akron, Ohio. I just looked at my account study time. I never knew it. 44 hours, 11 minutes. Interesting. And
awesome.
It's really good that you guys do that, because it also helps people realize, okay, I've been doing this for a while. I think I could be ready. That's a helpful tool. It really is.
That 44 hours sounds like it might have been 0 to extra. If it was in a concentrated period of time, that's about what you need to do to go 0 to extra.
But yeah, I took 168 hours, though.
My name is
Larry. You already admitted you were using mostly random exams, which don't take advantage of intelligent repetition. You'd have been faster if you'd stayed in study mode.
Yeah, probably so.
Study mode
is what it is.
It's what we call a premier feature of our website, and we usually recommend, if you're going to do any practice exams at all, wait till you hit about 85% in study mode, and then make sure you're doing simulated exams and not random ones. That way you're actually getting a trial for the exam. But it's really more for people who have anxiety on exams. That way you kind of get an idea of what it's going to feel like to take the test.
Brandon, that's a nice comment. That really is. Say that again, because for people who might be looking to get their license, that could be the point of this interview that really inspires people. Could you say that again?
Sure. Well, my recommendation is to do study mode. Start with that. That's the best feature of our website. Do that until you hit at least 85% in any particular course that you are studying for. And then at that point, if you tend to get nervous on exams, from there, do some practice exams. Make sure they're simulated exams, not random exams, so you're actually getting, what the real exam would look like. Make sure that you're doing at least an hour a day. And if you do 10 days for that you'll get passed for the tech, 20 for the general, and about 30 for the extra. That's kind of on average.
There you go. Very good. Thank you, Brandon. That's very, very good. I got to ask, it's just kind of a personal thing between us, and understanding that it's just between us and no one else is here listening. Do you guys have a favorite mode in amateur radio, just personally? Do you like to do something like, for example, John, you're a DMR guy, it sounds like. Do you like to do digital voice on repeaters and stuff?
Okay. What do I enjoy? I enjoy CW. I enjoy SSB. And I use DMR to have conversations with friends around the world. Because it's a convenient mode to if you want to have a regular sked, I have a friend in Australia that we talk fairly often. If you want to have a regular sked with someone in Australia, the mode that's going to be most effective is going to be DMR. But I'm not, if you ask me what I enjoy most about ham radio, I think maybe staying up all night on field day and working SSB on crowded bands.
Oh, John, you and I are brothers from another mother, man.
Or maybe CW.
I'm not good at that. Now, I'm not good at CW, but I found my first field day. In fact, I wrote a letter into the Arrl, and it was featured in QST magazine, the forums. I was thrilled. My first year in amateur radio, but I said I loved field day because it taught me how propagation worked. I learned when different areas of the world start coming in. And it's such a lesson, it's something that you can really start to grow more about how radio works when you do an all-nighter like that. And I love the fact you said sideband too. That's pretty cool.
And there's no meal that I've ever enjoyed more than breakfast cooked on the second day of field day, just after working all night long. Yeah,
no kidding. What about you, Brandon? What do you like to do in amateur radio?
Well, I do some of the DMR with my dad. I actually have a radio, and I'll catch his conversations sometimes with his friend over in Australia.
Nice.
And I've actually done field day a couple times with him. We used to go. One of my favorite memories. We used to go. It was him and K1RV. We would go on to the USS Salem, and they had a ham radio group on there where they did all kinds of contacts. Did a lot of CW there, but that was a lot of fun.
That's great. Do you also do CW, Brandon?
No, I don't. I know very little bit of it, but
That's
no,
okay.
I didn't get my
tech
license until after they dropped the Morse code requirement. I think it was at that point my dad was with Pi, and I turned to them. I said, I think it's time that I get my ham radio license. So I started studying that day for the technician course. I think I spent about 4 hours on it. Now, mind you, I had an advantage because I had been helping my dad work on the course, so I'd seen a lot of the material.
Yeah.
But, I sat there on his iPhone for 4 hours while we went, to the exam, and I passed it. I tried for the general. I think I missed that, I don't know, like 4 or 5 questions, something like that. But I hadn't studied it at all, so I was really happy to get my tech license then. And
that's great. Brandon, that's great.
We were all at lunch that day, and Pi said to Brandon, when are you going to get your license? He says, I don't know. Pi says, why don't you get one tonight? We have an exam session at 7 p.m. Brandon says, well, I haven't studied for it. Pi says, well, here. And so I said, so here's my iPhone. Start studying. And he did. He studied from like 1 p.m. till I think around 6:30 while I was driving him to the session. He had more study than I think he remembers. But and he passed it.
All right, let me ask you this, guys. Your program, Ham Test Onlne, does it work on all platforms? Meaning, is it going to work on a Google phone, or it could be an Android or an iPhone or a tablet made by any company? obviously we know it works on a computer, but what about smart devices?
It's browser based, so any device that can have Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, any browser can run our website.
Excellent. Okay, and tell me about the money back guarantee. How does the process work? Say somebody, they try it out and they, how does that all work?
Well, for one thing, if someone wants to try our software before signing up and paying for anything, if they want to see what all the fuss is about, they can actually try the first 50 questions of any course they want for free. So they just have to go click the Try It Free button. We recommend they create an account because that way it can actually keep track of their score. And if they decide to sign up, then they can do it right from there and just pick up where they left off on the free trial.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to ask, this is I think it's important to folks. Licensing up for people who don't retain things. How does your software help those people?
Well, I was just going to say, we've helped license children, I think as young as 6.
Yeah, I think we had a 5-year-old that get the technician. I think the youngest we've had on get an extra was I think a 9-year-old girl.
Wow.
We've helped a lot of seniors, including folks who've had memory loss from stroke. So it really is it's designed to drill things from short-term memory to long-term memory. So I think that's really the key there, and as to why people who struggle a little bit more with memory have an easier time using our software.
Kevin O'Doublehan from Ireland. I got my license the first year they brought in multiple choice questions here. It helped immensely. That's a nice comment, guys. That really is. How can people find Ham Test Onlne?
Go to hamtestonline.com. You can also go to Ham Radio License Exam. We've got quite a few names for our site, but Ham Test Onlne is the easiest way to get there.
Okay, and it works on any smart device wherever you are in the world, and you study at your own pace. And the nice thing is, there's nobody screaming at you. What do you mean you got that wrong again? No, doesn't do that. Doesn't do that.
We thought about putting in a snarky mode where it insults. We haven't done it yet.
No more gentleman stuff. From now on, you fight my way.
Of course.
Dirty.
Yeah.
You got one wrong again?
Yeah. Can't you figure this out? Then there's a little button that says moron mode. That's where I would be.
Radio may not be for you, dude.
Oh yeah, you don't know me well enough. That's funny. You've got my stats. You know the truth, John. Before we cut you guys loose, I want to make sure we get, if anybody has a question, please feel free to put it in the comment section. But you've been around a long time. There are other companies now that do this as well. What sets you apart from your competition?
Well, for starters, it's that back engine, that intelligent algorithm that we developed. We've looked around at some of the competition, and we haven't found anybody who has come close to the intelligent level that our software is at. We're constantly working to improve and come up with new innovations. So we do have some things. We are actually working on more mobile.
Whoops, Brandon.
And
there we go. Sorry, could you say again? Your audio cut out.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So you're working on, and then it cut.
We're working on a few different things. We're working on some cosmetic improvements. Web applications. One thing that we'd like to have, so you can kind of install it to whatever device, make it easier to access. Mm-hmm. We're also focusing on. I'm sorry, I lost. What was the other thing that I had just mentioned?
You're going to talk about going to the store and buying what your dad wants for lunch.
That'll be we have fun around here all the time, but
it sounds like it.
We're working on adding some new payment methods. We're working on doing some other changes to make it easier for us to implement question pools in the future. So there are some improvements that we're doing to the back end of the software. We're also focusing on increasing mobile responsiveness. That's the other thing that I was going to mention.
I want to welcome Al Machinsik. I hope I have it right, Al, from Canada. Victor Alpha 5 Alpha Kilo Mike. It's an honor to have you join us today, Al. Thank you for coming today. We're with Brandon and John from Ham Test Onlne today, a great company here in the States that helps people get licensed in amateur radio. Guys, before I cut you loose, this is a very big question. It's a big deal around here. For people that want to license up, okay, they've been a technician for 3 or 4 years. They've done the VHF thing, maybe worked a few contacts on 10 meters, but now they want to go up to general. What advice would you give to people to help encourage them to go up to the next license level?
Okay, well, first thing, they don't need to go back and study any of the prior levels. Anything that they need to remember from the prior levels, we will go over with them. We will remind them of all the things they should have learned earlier, and then we build from there. The second thing is true for anybody, whether they're upgrading or getting a new license. Concentrated study time is the secret. If you can only put in an hour a day, you will do well. If you can put in more than an hour a day, you will do even better. I guess the third thing I should mention is don't make the mistake of taking a lot of practice exams because it's not an efficient way to study. Stay in study mode and avoid taking practice exams. There's a study tips article on our website. If you follow those study tips, you will do great.
And just to reiterate, too, on the study tips, those are written in a way that a layman person, meaning a person that isn't radio background, isn't great at math, can understand. You guys make sure that it's in common English and that's, it's easy to remember. And one of the I think the hurdles a lot of folks in the States have is so much is metric, right? We're talking, we're talking kilohertz, we're talking megahertz, we're talking kilometers, we're talking all of this metric terms. And you guys have a way of getting people started with English to, with imperial units to metric very, very well. The program does phenomenally like that. With that, I should say, is that something that you guys really focus on and try and say, okay, we understand here in the States, we aren't using liters, meters, and grams, but or whatever. We're talking about metric units. You guys have a great way of explaining all that.
We have struggled with that for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm going to say, yeah.
We've come up with 4 or 5 different methodologies for teaching it, and I think finally, about 5 years ago, we came up with what we think is really a good way to teach it, and we're getting good feedback about it.
Yeah.
So, but everybody, a lot of people struggle with that. If you're not familiar with pico and nano and giga and all of that stuff, you're going to struggle with it. But it's not that complicated if you teach it right, and it took us a long time to figure out how to teach it right.
Oh, gotcha, John. Thanks for the honest answer. That's impressive. All right,
I want to make
go ahead.
One more mention for you, for your viewers as well. If you got any general class active VEs out there who have been doing sessions, we offer free extra courses to those VEs. So if you want to know more about that, you can check it out. It's on the bottom of our website under the free volunteer examiner page.
That's awesome right there. So what he said is if you're a volunteer examiner and you want to get up to extra, but you're a VE, you can go to Ham Test Onlne and they'll take care of the freight for the gift there, and you can study for your extra. That is a really great program.
Well, volunteer examiners are giving back to the community, right?
Yep, sure.
And we want to support them in that. And a general examiner is only allowed to administer the technician exam.
Yep.
Administer the general or the extra. Well, to administer the general, you need to have an extra in order to be able to administer all levels.
Yeah, yep. That's a really neat thing. So free syllabus for you if you're a VE and you're a general, but you'd like to get the extra. Hey, there you go, and then you can be the volunteer examiner for all 3 license classes. That's right. Really, really cool.
This is only for active VEs. Don't think you can get your general and then go sign up as a VE and then come and get your extra free with us. It doesn't work that way. You have to be someone who's already proven a willingness to contribute to the community. You have to have done at a minimum at least 3 sessions in the last year, or you're not serious about it.
There you go. Nicely said too, John. Final question for you, and this one I never told you this is coming because I wanted to see your reply to this. What do you think is the toughest question on the test?
It would have been awesome if you had told us in advance.
Yeah, right? Right. You can actually look at it. Just say what it's about is fine. And by the way, Andy Cowley, 2 Echo 0 Romeo Echo Echo. Have you thought about doing other countries? We talked about that. But yeah, yesterday we did. We talked about that, about maybe adding the UK and they talked about when they did Canada, it really didn't get a whole lot of, interest. I do think the UK would be huge because it's a growing group there, and the RSGB is so good with working with their people there, and Radcom is a good group too. But I think that what John had said earlier in the show, Andy, and you may have missed it, was he said that if you study for the extra, it gives you about 90% of what you need to know for the full license in the UK. So that would be something good to keep in mind too. Before you answer that question, both don't forget, hardest question on the test. Dave in Temecula, Whiskey 6, Charlie Romeo Tango, just signed up for the general course with his online Elmer Larry and Ham Test Onlne. Blah. You just go with Ham Test Onlne, Dave. You'll get it. And Dave, I hope you're feeling better soon. Dave's finding a tough thing down in Southern California. So there you go. New person signed up for you guys. What's the hardest question? What do you think, Brandon?
Oh, I think my dad's actually
with?
looking up the statistics right now because I think we can actually tell you exactly which questions students struggle with most. But I want to mention for your last viewer, tell him to shoot us an email when he passes. We'd love to congratulate him.
Heck yes. Man, absolutely. There's nothing better when the VEs stare at you with a blank stare like, how did you do this? It's great. It's great. Dave, thank you for being here. Also want to welcome the Smokin' Ape joining the show. Thanks, Ape. Good to see you, mate. As always, thank you for coming. And a great coffee and Hammermados this morning. I loved that. That was a lot of fun. To watch. You guys did a great interview, and the check's in the mail for the nice words. Yeah.
Without having actually had a chance to look it up, which would take me 10 minutes, and we don't have that time left. I think the one you came up with where the answer ends in 61, maybe the hardest. Certainly going to be something in the area of math or logic gates.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those, or that's what people really struggle. A lot of people struggle with logic gates.
Yeah, I was just kind of, I wasn't thinking so much, that you could be the exact answer. I'm just kind of thinking, what subject? Is it Smith charts, rectangular coordinates, logic gates, whatever it may be?
I think I had the most difficulty with super heterodyne receiver. Or there was a question under that was really confusing, or at least understanding the material for that was definitely very difficult.
That for the different stages?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was very confusing.
Balanced modulator. We're live with John and Brandon from Ham Test Onlne. You guys, it's a U.S. company. It's a family business. These people offer 100% money-back guarantee if you aren't happy with the software, and it works. It really works. I'm living proof of that. Now, of course, I went 168 hours because I'm Larry, but, it worked, and that's the main thing. So before we cut you loose, any final thoughts for people here from you guys?
We want to thank you for having us on your show today, Larry. We really appreciate it. We love our customers. We have a very huge fan base, and we appreciate how much they support us and all the feedback that they send us. So we do want to say thank you to them as well, and thanks for being here for the show.
Larry, you had asked us the other day how many subscriptions we sold. I checked this morning. We sold about 110,000 over the years, and if you made a conservative guess and decided maybe 80% of those people actually passed an exam, then we probably have somewhere around 80,000 people who have used our courses to pass the exams. And since I don't remember the latest statistics for the number of amateur radios, but operators in the U.S., but I think it's somewhere around 750,000. Probably means about 10% of the people who have a license have passed the course have passed an exam using us.
Wow. Over 110,000 people. That's fantastic. Yeah.
That's just the paid subscribers. I mean, we've given away free ones to youth groups. We've given away free ones to active VEs, and so we have. It's more than that have used it, but it's just the paid ones is 110,000.
Do you go to any of the big ham fairs?
Now we've done Hamvention multiple years. We've done Orlando.
Hamcation? Yeah.
Yeah, Hamcation. We've done probably a total of 15 different shows, and I mean probably been to 50 different shows spread out, but a lot of them are repeats because we spills every year. But we find that when you're selling a product that's as cheap as this one,
that's what I was going to say. It's hard to make your money back.
Yeah.
It's a $25 product, and when you look at the cost of going there and shipping there and setting up a booth, hotels and rental cars, you're spending $5,000 to $10,000, and it's impossible to make that back when you're selling a $25 product. And in the shows, and a lot of times in the past, we'd sell them for $19. We sell them for $5 off. So you'd have had to sell hundreds and hundreds, and it needs a one-on-one conversation for 2 or 3 minutes before someone is going to buy. There's just not that time to do it. So we haven't been to shows recently. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of expense. It doesn't pay off for us. We just try to focus more. We're sort of like, in a sense, we're sort of like Tesla as an automobile manufacturer. They do no advertising at all, but they focus on making the best car possible. Well, we don't go out to shows and do a lot of marketing. I mean, but we focus on making the best product out there, and we rely on word of mouth to spread the word. And we're very, very, very grateful to fans like you who helped to spread the word. That's what's made it successful.
That's beautiful. Any final things? I don't think you should add anything more than that. All right, guys. We're going to do a sign-off from Phoenix in your honor. We always end the show with a TV sign-off just to remember when we were young again. That was John, Whiskey 1, Alpha India, son Brandon, Whiskey 1, Sierra India, father and son at Ham Test Onlne. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Guys, we appreciate you being here too today. Thank you for coming from all over the world. I'm going to invite you to come back here in about an hour or so. We'll come up with a second show. It's going to be a QSO show. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Wherever you may be in this world, God bless you. Thanks for watching Ham Radio Live, and a special thanks to John and Brandon from Ham Test Onlne. If you don't have your extra, they'll help you get it. Wherever you may be, goodbye, everybody.
KPHO TV, Channel 5 in Phoenix, Arizona, now brings to a close another broadcast day from its studios at 4016 North Black Canyon Highway. KPHO TV operates on Channel 5 with an effective radiated power of 100,000 watts video and 10,000 watts audio. KPHO is Arizona's first television station, in operation since 1949, and is owned and operated by the Meredith Corporation. Meredith also owns and operates translator stations K40AD, serving Cottonwood, Clarkdale, and Cornville, K64BI, serving Flagstaff, K59CI, serving Globe, Miami, and K09KV, serving Prescott, Arizona. We invite our viewers to send suggestions or comments concerning our station operation and programming to Program Manager, KPHO TV, Post Office Box 20100, Phoenix, Arizona, 85036.
Mountain,
On behalf of the staff and management of KPHO TV5, good night.